My name is Bobby P. Kinzer. I'm the president of Life. I love saying that. That sounds so cool. But it stands for the Literacy Institute for Financial Enrichment. And we've been teaching over 18 years financial education in the DMV, actually all over the country, but specifically in the area of the District of Columbia, DC, Maryland, and Virginia. So I'm so thankful to be here before you today. Now, my little background is I'm retired as a senior financial analyst for the FDIC, the people that insured your money. I used to liquidate banks, and I'm a product of the University District of Columbia. I graduated there. First, I went to Penn State University for 2 years. Then I went to Texas A&I, and I had the fortunate honor to go play professional basketball in Europe. So I didn't finish my degree, but I played a year professionally, and something hit me and said, I need to finish my degree. The best thing I ever did was go back and finish my degree. And then I went back and played 4 straight years of professional basketball. And then my body clock expired, and I had to get a real job, and I had to get into the workforce. So I want to start off with today's agenda. Can y'all see today's agenda?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, I don't know where that little red line coming in. Somebody's writing all on my screen. But anyway, all right. So we're going to talk a little bit about the value of college education, income and employment, key insights, the college cost of debt, funding sources, which is a big one, talking about grants and loans, starting the financial aid process, student loan management, and the college planning checklist. So let's talk with this first particular graph that you see here. Now, this is about the cost of higher education. Now, college, we know, is not for everyone. We do know that. But one thing for sure, finishing college is what is so important. Finishing college is important because if you look at these different salaries or wage scales, if you look at the green bar, which is, if you're colorblind, second from the left, it shows a high school diploma, you probably make around about $41,829 a year. Look at the gray bar, fourth from the left, with a bachelor's degree, that's $73,880. That's a 78% increase. Now, like I said, same thing applies, whether you go into a trade, a vocational school, or you going through to get a certification program. It's all about finishing, you all. And that's what's so important, because college doesn't guarantee you're going to get a job. It does guarantee that you're going to meet the minimum requirement these days where they're asking for a degree. And it doesn't mean that you're going to be that much more smarter than anyone else. But what it does tell people, and especially employees, that you were disciplined, able to complete a task, a goal, and that is a major skill in the workforce. And being a disciplined, there's a statement that goes, without discipline, academic education is a waste. And another important word that is synonymous with discipline is self-control. So this just shows you the difference in salaries, and this is just the average of that, the difference between a high school diploma and a bachelor's. And then if you look at the far right column, which is a master's degree, it's even more money. And it is said that a person with a bachelor's degree will earn about $1.8 million over the lifetime versus a high school grad. So this next chart lets you look at the average tuition fees at ranked colleges. This is private versus public out of state and public in state. And as you can see, private, the average is about $35,000 a year. Public out of state is about $21,000, and in state is $9,000. That is a major difference. And it's so important. It doesn't matter, well, it does matter which school you go to as far as when it comes down to actually how much it costs to go to the school. But it's so important that you try to lower the cost and help your families out. And hopefully you can get into school that's not going to cost as much and that you are able to get aid. Now, the unemployment rate for college graduates is about half that of young persons with a college degree. Now, college expenses has been averaging increasing 9% a year over the last, so many years. So with inflation, and I don't know if y'all understand about inflation, lately inflation has been going around about 2% for 10 years. And it just jumped up last month to 5%. And that is, inflation is the cost of goods. And that's the same as education. So education has been really going up and the cost is really skyrocketing. But, you know, a lot of people ask about debt. And there's a definition, two definitions for debt. There's good debt and there's bad debt. A college degree is definitely good debt because it is an asset. Don't let nobody tell you differently. So let's just talk a little bit about the college diploma key insights. 44% jobs require more education than 5 years ago. Now, there's a study that shows that by 2040, it's going to be about 60 to 70% of jobs are going to be requiring, at a minimum, an undergraduate degree. 79% of families must rule out colleges due to cost. 57% of families do not have a plan to pay for college. And that's so important because I do a lot of financial planning for people and setting goals. And most people, there's three things that they struggle with their finances. They fail to plan, they have lack of information, and the third one is misinformation. But the fail to plan is number one. Now, 69% of college graduates incur student loan debt, and 51% drop out the second year due to financial difficulties. A lot of people used to think those were other reasons, but mainly it's because of finances. So now it has been proven that actually individuals, especially of color, have so many more greater challenges of having to repay loan repayment, and it hits them a little bit stronger because communities of color have a unique challenge. You know, students of color borrow more, they face high interest rates, and they have more private loans, lower graduation rates, and high levels of unemployment. So we want to talk a little bit about the sources of college funding. Now, if you look at this chart, it gives you the sources of funding: student borrowing, student income and savings, parent and income savings, parent borrowing, friends and relatives, and grants and scholarships. Now, most need-based scholarships grants give you up to about $5,732. And the average for merit scholarships is $7,562. So sources of income are so important. And if you look at this particular graph, it shows that parent borrowing and student borrowing is at least 27% of where that funding comes from. So it is important, the sources, and it's always good to try to get free money. We're going to talk about free money in a minute, but just look at this chart and see how it breaks down as far as, and then now the parents and borrowing is a major debt to the family. So this is a chart that breaks it down. So next I want to talk about the financial need and financial aid. Now, on the left side is the cost of attending school. You got tuitions and fees, room and board, books and supplies, personal expenses, and transportations. There's probably a lot, which is not in this. It's also need to sometimes add in entertainment because we just don't, just go to school and don't do nothing. But you take that, but your EFC, meaning your expected family contributions, remains constant no matter what college you go to. And they use the FAFSA, the free application for financial student aid. And that determines your expected family contribution. So if you look at the column in the middle, which is your expected family contribution, EFC, as you can see, they look at the income and more emphasis is put on income. And they look at your parents' income, 22 to 47% of your income. And a lot of people used to think it's assets, but they don't look at your parents' assets as much as they look at income. And for example, they consider income that if you got a 529 plan, which is a college plan, and the investments. And as students, look at it. They look at it even more so if it's your income. They look at 50% of your income and 20% of your assets. An example could be what they call an UGMA. So your expected family contribution is not the amount your family will pay for college or receive in financial aid. It's the number used by schools to calculate how much aid a student is eligible to receive. Notice the word eligible to receive. So it's so important that you fill out that FAFSA and you determine your expected family contribution, because that affects how much financial need that you're going to receive. And if it doesn't meet 100% of your child's financial need, you have to make up the gap in addition to paying the expected family contribution. So next, I'd like to talk about four-year universities versus community college. Now, if you go to community college, that's about 35% cheaper. If you look at this, some of the questions that you need to ask about a community college is if it's right for your family. Are you concerned about the cost and the student debt? Can course credits transfer towards your bachelor's degree? Would the student rather live at home? And is the student undecided on a major? But look at the difference. The average tuition for a community college is about $3,700. That is a big difference. And families can save about 39%, especially if a lot of the students haven't made up their mind. It could save your parents a lot of money. Next, now this is going to be, we're going to receive handouts. So some of these slides, especially this slide right here, you're going to receive in a handout, and it's just giving you some information on grants and scholarships. And look at the second one, studentaid.ed.gov. That is one important site because it has so much information, you all, about student aid, student loans, and it is great. So please check that out. I want to talk about college planning checklists, setting a goal, creating a plan, which we always talk about, and reviewing and adjust. What type of college should we be considering? You know, dual enrollment. The young lady talked about dual enrollment earlier. That usually pertains to, you know, high school and taking college courses or APs, vocational training. What total out-of-pocket cost should we expect? There's a calculator out there that the U.S. Department of Education allows online for you for free that you can use to calculate what that expected out-of-pocket cost is. That's the site right there. If you can click that, but we'll have this in a handout. What is my family's financial outlook? These are things that you need to consider. What is the percent total cost do we want to save or work for? And financial aid offer, what percent are federal versus private loans? And we want to talk a minute real quick about federal versus private loans. Okay, I'm going down the stretch here, you all. This is what I talked about, the actual paying for college. First, you should go to the free money, meaning scholarships and grants. That's so important. Scholarships and grants, which is the free money, as we call it. Then next, it should be your family money, you know, savings or work study or job. And then third and lastly, it should be borrowed money, because you want to come out of school and not be in debt, because right now that's one of the biggest burdens, especially on people of color, is their college debt. So federal is better than private student loans. Reason why? Because a lot of federal loans, the interest rates are lower than private loans. If you have private student loans and you have several different loans, you can't consolidate them, but federal loans, you can consolidate them. So those are the advantages of why federal loans are better. And the interest rates are usually higher on private student loans. Just want to give a quick disclaimer because I showed you a lot of statistics and averages, and just want to let you know those are just for educational purposes and just giving you ballparks. They're not exact, but it's giving you some idea of the cost and the fees that are associated with different schools. Just want to give that disclaimer and just want you to understand that some of the websites that we recommend, they're great websites, but we do not, you know, we're not responsible for the content. So with that, this is my information.